Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to another installment of Reality Bites. We're talking today about David. We're still in the life of David. We're in 1 Samuel chapter 17. What I'm going to do today is kind of an impossible task, but we're going to talk fast so I can get it done. 30 verses, guys. First verse through 30th verse in about 5 or 6 minutes. Talking about a strange topic called cheese and courage. You'll see why it's cheese and courage in a minute, but stay with me for these 30 verses in about 5 or 6 minutes. Listen, we have here David's been anointed king in the last chapter. He's done a few things since then. He's cast some demons out of Saul by playing the harp and some different other things he's done. But we don't have time for that because we have so much David to cover in the next few days. I'm trying to get out some important points. So here we have the battle against the Philistine. Goliath is about to come in a few verses, but we want to set that up. So we have the Philistines coming to challenge the Israelites and challenge them. And David's brothers, all of them are at the war about to fight. There's captains, there's chiefs, there's all kind of army people. And David's dad, Jesse, says, David, take your brothers and take the captains of the armies some grains and some cheese and bread. That's where the cheese comes in, because he was told to take them the cheese, and that would be his assignment. But while he was there, he kind of looked around, saw what was going on, and found Goliath here. So listen, Goliath in the Bible is described as a champion. It says this a few times in the 30 verses that top off 1 Samuel 17. He's called a champion. Why is that? Because a champion is somebody that can change the whole tide of a fight, change the whole tide of a conflict in one fell swoop, in one blow. That's what you're up against, not only in these verses, but in your own lives. You're up against an adversary that can change the tide of everything in a negative way in their favor in one blow. It's not to scare you, it's not to discourage you, but rather to encourage you, to let you see what's coming in the next verses. So he's a champion. So we know he's the man. He's fighting, and he comes every day taunting Israel, teasing Israel, asking, bring me one man who can fight me, who's not afraid. And every day when he did this, Israel was afraid. I mean, they were scared. If we were a few years ago, they would say scared. That's what they were. They were afraid of this Philistine. So they went cowering back to their camps. Every day they heard him. Every day they saw him. And even so much in verse 16, it says he was taunting them for 40 days. Every day for 40 days. So what that is, what 40 is God's number of judgment, or better yet, God's number of determination. So for 40 days, he's been determining something about Israel. He's been making a judgment call on their character, a judgment call on their courage. That's what he was doing, and that's what we're up against. So what you are experiencing now, what you and we are experiencing in these days, whether it be financial, whether it be marital, whether it be relational, whether it be raising our kids, whether it be at work, wherever it is, it's taunting us, trying to cause a swift decision to be made against us, not in our favor. Whatever the trial is, the enemy has set that up to make a judgment call about you. But what you and I have to do is make a determination, make our own judgment call to not let the judgment call of the enemy be true. Let's keep moving here. So he's making a judgment call. And David, around verses 28 through 30, is asking the question, what do you get for defeating this guy? He's just a buster. That's what they would have said back in L.A., where I'm from. They would call him a buster. So he says, what would you get for defeating the Philistine? And they said, well, you get the wife. You get all these different things. You get Saul's daughter and a bunch of extras and great parting gifts. David was not so much interested in that. He said in verse 29, he says, if they're not a cause. His brother said, you're causing trouble, you're starting drama. But David says, is there not a cause? When we hear him defying God, talking about the armies of Israel, David saw that as a direct affront to God, the God he serves. Because here's the thing, when you talk about God's people, when you come against God's people and God's chosen and his appointed, you actually come against him. So David saw it as a direct affront against his king, against God. So at this point, he's upset. I don't know if you all can remember back when you were in elementary school, and even some of you now, but when you talked about somebody's mother or their mama, it was fighting words. You were not happy about that, and you would defend your mother's honor to the mat if you had to. And so that's what David is saying. You talk about God was the equivalent for us of talking about my mama. It's fighting words. So that's what David heard, and that was the cause. He said everybody ought to be vigilant. Everybody ought to be excited. Everybody ought to be courageous when you hear someone talking against God. That's why it hurts me and it saddens me to see in this generation, the 21st century generation of Christians, that when folk talk against God, when folk talk crazy about God or give legislation that passes or whatever they do that's anti-God, we sit on our hands and we run away with our tail tucked between our legs, as opposed to being like David and asking, is there not a cause? All right, we're almost done. I'm talking fast because we got a long way to go and about a minute or so to get there. So one thing I really want to hit home to you is up a few verses. Let's rewind. Now here we're here. A few verses up, David says, who will challenge or who will take on this uncircumcised Philistine? I love that because he says uncircumcised. You can think about the surgical procedure of circumcision that you have for your child or didn't have for your child or for yourself. But David is knowing that circumcision for Israelites, or for the Jewish nation, for the nation of Israel, was a rite that showed covenant, that showed relationship. He's saying, who is this non-covenant having, non-relationship with God having Philistine that would take on God's army? What are you and I saying? The thing you're fighting against, the thing that's coming against you, the thing trying to take you out, the thing trying to discourage you, kill visions, kill dreams, kill families and marriages, that thing is uncircumcised. It has no covenant, no relationship. But guess who has one? You do. I do. We do. So we have to begin to act like, live like, move like, and exist like there's a covenant in place. And that is what will help us to get over and defeat those Philistines in our lives that come to taunt us and make determinations and judgment calls against who we are. Listen, I'm done for the day. I had to speed talk, so you may have to speed listen or listen twice or 3 times. It'll be up there on YouTube and Facebook for you to do so. But I love you. I will see you all tomorrow with more of David in part 2 of Cheese and Courage. See you soon. Bye-bye.